to see how well you read the article or pieces of it. If you can anticipate what I said. So, and those of you who are in the intro class, I really do apologize because I had no idea this time yesterday this was going to happen. So I had to miss my 11:10 class, which I hated doing. I would have loved to have done the whole thing on the cell phone in the room with y'all and had like some kind of speaker up so y'all can hear the whole conversation. It's not gonna, I think they're gonna run it the 18th of September. They taped it. I'd love to hear what they're gonna edit and not edit out, although I don't think they can really edit it out because you know I'm talking a sentence and you can figure out a way to edit all that out because every other word I was, clowning, at any rate. I guess you could that way, but the point is this. It starts with, first Terrence comes on, and because it's edited, he messed up the flood line like about 8 times, which made me realize this really is a tape thing. You don't do a lot of stuff live, do you? You couldn't read the copy. But I was going to try it again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, wait, let me try it again. 3, 2. It's like a nice enough guy, just, overmatched by the phone. He starts with asking, my friend Eddie Cloud, give us a history of African American studies. So Eddie says, African American studies, 40-year tradition and history. It was brought about by protest. It was brought about by struggle on a lot of college campuses. It hasn't really developed on black college campuses in the same way because a lot of black colleges feel like since they service black students, they really don't have to have black studies programs and such. And there's a deep conservatism that speaks to the deep bourgeois tendencies of many folks in the black community as they press up black colleges. I'm listening. I mean, that's pretty much what you would read in most of the textbooks. Then he asked me. Round 1. Based on that article you read, what did I say in the first paragraph? Please, Professor, right hand.
You said that African American studies began with African thought.
There's a mess. Yes. It began with thinking black people, and how far back does that go? All the way. So right. That's the first thing. I didn't quite say it that way, but I definitely got it in that way. Exactly. Beginning there. So when we get to African American, Africana, black, whatever you want to say, non-white, all black people together studies in the university as an academic practice. What is it a manifestation of? Beginning, as Jeremiah said, at the beginning of human history. African history, beginning of African history, beginning of human history. So, with the beginning of that, where then does African American and Africana studies fit? Y'all got in the first paragraph, after the quote from Carruthers, which I close with. Oh, I love that. African champions must break the chain. Anyway, yes. Oh, wait, we're not going to start with the quote. Somebody read the quote loud and strong. The quote at the beginning of the article. Yes, please do.
We can say at this point that the battle to liberate African thought from non-existence has been decisively won. The African individuals and European saviors have demolished the fabricators and the collaborating African scholars on that front. Now we must rescue the victim from European philosophy and science. African deep thought must now speak for itself. Rather than set up an interview schedule containing the great issues of European philosophical inquiry, African champions must break, I guess that would smash the chains
Like it really should be smashed.
ideas to European ideas.
Yes.
And listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters.
Yes, thank you. This is the Terrence Smiley Show. It's 4, 5 black people talking. No matter who's overhearing, this should be a black people conversation. Why do you keep bringing up whether we're a problem or not? Because you haven't broken the chain. Rather than set up an interview schedule, she even said, rather than set up an interview schedule with these issues that occupy the West. At some point, Eddie talked about how you should be able to read African American literature and understand that whether you're reading Turgenev or African American literature is the particularity of the black experience that gives some sense of the commonality of the human experience. I said, yeah, that's true to myself, because by then they had formed Voltron. with a friend versus me. But I'll let you be the judge as to how effective it was. Because really what you saw was in representing Africana versus black. It was very clear. It's not about race, it's about culture. They couldn't get away from race. Why? Because their thinking is always congealed around race. And what after all is race but a social construct, one that deals with power. So every other question was about race and race problems and race this and race that. Although I think sure she wants to switch teams. We couldn't pay her though. But she was very clear. We got to get away from this idea when we start to keep thinking about things in terms of race. There's a reason for that, right? But you can't do it while you're explaining your existence to white folks, which is what apparently these folks spend a lot of time doing, which is black studies. But as Carruthers says in his opening quote, the battle to liberate African deep thought or African thought from non-existence has been decisively won. Meaning what? Who argues now that black people were thinking and doing stuff before slavery? Nobody argues about that now, right? We know that. We might not know the specifics, but we know that we were doing something before somebody put their hands on us. Is that pretty much a settled conversation? Yes. It is. I mean, there's still a whole lot of people, maybe K-12, who abuse black students every day. Not all of them white, not all of them black, but there are some teachers who don't know that and will tell you things and sound completely innocent, like, well, you know, yeah, people were in Africa, but really, black people really began to learn and understand, like, literacy and things like that in slavery. There are people who would say that. Any of y'all ever heard that in school? Sure, right. Y'all heard that, so you know, right. They still do it. I spent 2 hours with school teachers yesterday morning in Philly, trying to disabuse some of that notion. But for the most part, Carruthers is right. This has been decisively won. Now, the second sentence, he says, what? What's the challenge now? One time. The African defenders. Yes, as European saviors. Who are the African defenders? What are they defending? Themselves, the culture, the memory, the history, the narrative, the African defenders. But they are not alone. Who are their partners in this? The who? European, I would extend Carruthers to say non-African, meaning not just European, Asian, whoever comes. Saviors, meaning what? Then what are they saving? African deep thought, and not just African deep thought, but they're saving themselves from the disadvantage of not knowing about black people, which is a point that Dr. Rose made several times in the conversation. Because she went on to talk about why it was important to teach white students black studies, and I agree. I would much prefer to teach them here, which is why near the end of the hour she said, well, we all can't teach at Howard, not in response to anything I said, but by then it was like, damn, I wish we were here. I know. And I said, well, what you do is important too. You know how you say, okay. At Ohio State and Temple, I taught a lot of white students, and we'll teach a whole lot more. Anybody sign up here at Howard? Love to have white. It's a beautiful thing. Anybody come, it's a beautiful thing. And everybody's excluding anybody. Here's the thing. And you think I'm going back to Ohio State to teach you crazy? Get his job up. I don't care if it's a slave wage, because some things are more important than money. Although money is important. But more important than that is the ability to talk about yourself as if you're at your house. And to be able to criticize yourself and to say, no, I don't agree with that. And to be able to do that without falling out, because you realize that every word out of your mouth, you're not representing the entire race. It's important. Like I told him at the beginning of the hour, I said, you know what? Smiley was like, well, in the car, what's the difference between black studies and black colleges and black studies and white colleges? And he didn't say, I said HWCU, you know me. But I said, well, I'll put it like this. Let me start by saying that in many ways, black studies departments are the black colleges of white schools. In other words, that's where black people go for whatever sodas they're going to get there and whatever intellectual thrust. So it ain't like we're not related. I know all them dudes. I know all them sisters, they ain't no problem. The circles are small. But let's also be clear. Well, I'll come back to that in a minute. Yes, but the idea that you have African champions and defenders and European or non-African saviors, in other words, working to create the space for African deep thought and African literature, They are there, but so they have